In this video, we're going over 5 heroes that you should be playing in the new patch meta. These are characters that are super good, and as of this patch, they are revealed to be some of the best things that you should be doing. So if you want to climb, these probably are the characters you should pick up. But do me a huge solid and smash the like, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Check out my Patreon for private coaching. Links will be in the description down below, and let's get into it. Now I'm going to give you an honorable mention first, and the reason that this is an honorable mention is that she's been meta for basically forever, and she's still really freaking good, and it's Kiriko. Kiriko is definitely a character that I'm going to recommend. She's freaking insane, whether it's ranked or coordinated play. Kiriko has offensive capabilities, has the means to save and bail out your team. You can make huge plays defensively or aggressively. You can deny off angles. You can join a DPS on and off angle to create even more pressure. You can go in with the dive. You can bail out a team and peel. There's just so much you can do with this character. And they're just in the honorable mention slot purely because they've been meta. Like, it's nothing new with this character. So I thought they should be included because they're awesome, and they probably should be the character that you're grinding the most as a support, at least to have something to flex to outside of your main. I think Kiriko's an amazing character to flex to because she doesn't really have any core weaknesses like a lot of other supports have, and she's super powerful, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So she's our 6th place or our honorable mention. Now, next up, I do want to talk about number 5 on our list, and it's Diva. Now, right now, Dive is the new hotness. It's incredibly powerful, but Winston, unfortunately, is a character that I feel takes a bit more coordination than Diva to get value. Now, if you do have that coordination, you're playing in a 3-stack, you're really trying to coordinate your dives. Bubble can enable your dives very well. And if you're disciplined with that bubble use, Winston could be insane, but the fact of the matter is, in the chaotic nature of ranked, Diva is going to be a lot more flexible most of the time because Diva is less one-dimensional. Diva doesn't need her team to get value because you don't always have to dive. You can pick and choose your fights. If you need to just play passively, bail out your team, and then look for an opportunity, you can do that. If you need to pivot into a dive, you can do that, and you can just enable them with your DM. While Winston is probably better in a more coordinated setting, Diva is better equipped for the chaotic nature of ranked, plus she's not just bad in general, she's very powerful even in coordinated play as well. I do think that Winston is probably the go-to tank if you're up against something like an Azaria or an Orisa, and you're trying to enable a full dive team. But come on, are you really gonna have that full dive team in ranked? Most of the time, no. And in that case, Diva is just the clear winner the majority of the time for ranked play. Now, next up, we do gotta talk about number 4 on our list. We have Echo, a DPS that is really cementing herself as just one of the best DPS in the game, and as a DPS that doesn't need a pocket. And here's the trick to get a lot of value on Echo. You need to play Echo far more passively than you're probably doing. Echo is a character that can take these off angles and poke, just like if you're a Sojourn, and then fly back to your team if you need to. A lot of people want to just take Echo and just like fly upward and over like a Pharah, but her flight oftentimes can just be mobility. Like, there's no reason that you have to fly everywhere, fly in open space, when you can play corners, you can play the ground, be a grounded Echo. And yes, you can take height, but you should take normal high grounds, like fly up to a high ground that you can play from, just like if you were any other character that just gets to stand on the high ground, or you take massive height after the characters that are threatening you are down, or if you're going in with a full dive like with a Winston or Diva. Now, I do think that Echo is really misunderstood as a character. A lot of people are trying to force that value through, and while you can definitely go for these plays where you set up in an off angle, you look for a moment to push up, try to get, you know, your orbs and your beam on one target, and then use your fly to get away. Remember, it's primarily your escape. It's not something that you necessarily want to use to go back in for more, unless you're gonna be killing a whole bunch of people and your team is scaling with you. Echo's a character that really benefits from just poking a lot, playing an aggressive angle, and applying pressure because she's hard to push because you could just beam a low target. She does a lot of damage, and your ultimate, if you ult onto tanks or even supports like Ana, build up a quick nano, can be game-changing. And in a lot of ways, you're like a Genji that is more flexible, has better matchups, and has a better ult that doesn't need an ultimate to do anything. And next up on our list, we have Ana. And Ana is just a slam dunk play right now, especially for ranked play. Nano is enabling so many of the top win conditions right now, whether this is Ramatra's ultimate, which is an amazing nano target, of course. Just nanoing a queen or nanoing a fully charged Zarya alone is going to build these characters' ultimates, and they're just going to run rampant on the enemy team. And there's, of course, a lot of the combos that you can run, like Nano Blade, Nano Death Blossom, Nano Barrage, that is super powerful and ranked if you're duoing with someone that you can rely on. And I understand that Kiriko can feel like a fold to Ana, but I want you to understand that Ana pressures her in two different ways, both the sleep and the nade, and Kiriko can't necessarily deal with both unless they're being used at the same time. In addition to that, you're going to be able to put the burden on Kiriko, where a really good Ana that's constantly making these really big nades and really proactive nades sometimes will just win fights before the Kiriko can react because people just die right away. And a lot of times, it's like putting a stranglehold on Kiriko's utility, where they feel like if they're not there to keep the Ana in check, they're just going to lose right away. And another really important factor is right now, with Ramatra's running around rampant, having a sleep dart on Ana and a nade to just free anti a Ramatra or deny a Ramatra, especially when they're ulting, you can sleep them and deny them and turn off their ultimate, is pretty much unparalleled, and you're going to hard carry games with these abilities alone. The next up, we do got to talk about Ramatra. Ramatra, we just mentioned how he's so strong in the meta, and he's probably the best tank to be playing right now, especially in ranked, where his ultimate is free fight wins. He's really, really good with pretty much any random composition, and he's one of the few tanks I think plays with these wacky compositions that don't really fit a mold. Like these random Genji cast compositions, or just like a smattering of like a weird amalgamation of supports and DPS. Ramatra can kind of pivot with anybody, can brawl in with anybody, can poke with anybody, and because you're flexible in your playstyle on Ramatra, you can be flexible with any team comp and kind of play to their strengths. I do think that the real key in order to get the most amount of value on Ramatra is make sure that you're not just popping your Nemesis form for no reason. It's really important to have a legitimate reason to do so. I've been coaching a lot of Ramatras lately, and most of them will see somebody that they just can brawl, and then they're brawling them, right? You're punching this person, but you got to understand that there is a cost to just popping this because you're not going to have it when you need it. Oftentimes, you should be poking for longer and looking for a better opportunity, an isolated target, someone without cooldowns, someone without their team. And then always think about your ultimate as the win condition that you need to set up with tracking the abilities that could shut you down, like sleep, coach gun, any form of CC, break flail, loose tail boop, doesn't really matter what it is. You do need to be tracking all of these things, because if you're allowed to be left unhindered with your ultimate, you're just going to win the fight. So it better get the value right away when you pop it, no matter what happens to you, or you better be tracking these things so that you can guarantee get that value with the ultimate. The last but certainly not least, we have Ashe, and Ashe is quickly rising in the ranks to be a dominant force as a DPS for a couple of big reasons. Number one, she's a great hedge against many of the other top DPS that you could run into. She can one-shot Tracer, and she's probably one of the best characters to keep Tracer in check, which is an amazing DPS. Of course, she's really, really good against flyers, and she can deny echoes and deny Pharos. And I do think that without a pocket, Ashe is actually super strong, but she's been held back by the perception that you need a pocket. Yes, a pocket is great on every freaking hit scan, but now you no longer one-shot headshot most squishies, even with the damage boost. So it doesn't hit the breakpoints that really push it over the edge. And Ashe alone is already insanely freaking strong. You don't need that pocket. And the other reason that Ashe is so damn strong right now is primarily because of her ultimate, which I think is probably the best DPS ultimate right now that sees substantial play. Sure, there's a couple other ones like maybe Simwall that you could justify is a bit better. But for the most part, Bob baits out beats, Bob wins fights, Bob gets killed. You just got to make sure that you're creating that crossfire. You're creating pressure from two different angles. Don't allow an opponent to move like a couple of steps and deny peeking both you and the Bob, right? They should only be able to deny one of you. And the idea is that they're under pressure from multiple angles, because that is pseudo replicating what it's like to fight against an off-angly DPS that's, you know, taking pot shots at your team, which is what you don't like, right? And that's what they don't like. So don't allow it to be easy for them. Don't allow them to control the angles against your ultimate, because if they can't control the angles, they will just lose to it, and that's the way that you get the most value. Anyways, these are the 6 heroes that I would highly suggest playing in this new meta. But if you have another hero that you've been grinding and you think is really good in this meta, let us know in the comments down below. Smash that like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you next time.